It's blue blood versus new blood as Alabama faces Cincinnati in the semifinal Cotton Bowl. The Tide making the playoff for the 7th time in its 8 years of existence, trying to become the first team to repeat in the playoff era. The Bearcats, meanwhile, the only remaining unbeaten in college football, and they've already made history, becoming the first Group of 5 program to make the playoff. But Luke Fickell says they have much, much more to accomplish.
We don't want to think we're carrying some flag for, the non-big schools, so to speak. We just want to be us.
Despite Cincy's Cinderella label, they were in a better spot to make the playoff than Alabama entering Championship Saturday. The Tide were underdogs for the first time in 6 years heading into the SEC Championship game, and that was all the motivation they needed to play their best game of the season.
Rice has tons of time, looks long, throws. Jamison Williams behind the defense. He's got it. Touchdown, Alabama! What a throw, what a catch.
The rat poison that you put out there this week was yummy.
After shredding a Georgia defense that many called one of the best units of all time, the Cincy defense has their work cut out for them, trying to slow down Bryce Young and the great Tide offense. It's 1 versus 4 and a trip to the national championship game on the line New Year's Eve in Arlington.
Yes, it's the Tide and Bearcats opening the college football playoffs in the Cotton Bowl. Cincinnati and Alabama come in ranked 7th and 8th respectively, and fewest yards allowed per play in FBS. They're also a pair of top 10 teams in FBS yards per play on the offensive side, so they get it done on both sides of the ball. Let's bring in HQ analyst Barrett Sallee for some perspective here. And both teams led by terrific QB play. Desmond Ridder for the Bearcats, Heisman winner Bryce Young under center for the Crimson Tide. Barrett, set the scene, if you will, 2 days from kickoff.
Well, I tell you what, flying in this morning from Atlanta, saw a lot of Cincinnati fans. And look, they're festive. They're excited to be here. Even though they went undefeated into the Peach Bowl last year, I don't think anybody thought that they would get to this point. But here they are. The fans are excited. And look, I'll be honest with you. I think this town is extremely pumped up because you do not get a chance to see a semifinal like this. Obviously, Cincinnati, the first Group of 5 team ever to make it into this position. Luke Fickell doesn't want to carry that mantle, but the truth is he is carrying that mantle for all of the Group of 5.
How about the Tide? Their quest to repeat as national champs. That's a storyline we've had before. Some of the key players changed, but under Nick Saban, they're used to this stage. Barrett, how big is that familiarity for the Crimson Tide?
Well, it's huge, especially nowadays where you don't necessarily have all the press availabilities. These guys are used to the pattern, the pacing, how you go through walkthroughs, where you're practicing, why you're practicing at a different location, all the other events that you have to go through. So, yeah, Cincinnati went through that at the Peach Bowl last year, but this is different. You have to get focused as soon as you get onto that practice field, wherever you're practicing. They understand that. They go through a formulaic evaluation of how things go the week leading up. So, yeah, it's a huge deal that Alabama's been here before. Yeah, the players, look, there are a lot of new faces on this team. That's fine and dandy, but they've been through this. They've seen how the leaders from last year and previous years handled it, so they're right following in their footsteps.
That's something that, of course, is new to Cincinnati, if you will. Now, the Tide come off their best performance of the season in the SEC title game. What do you think the burning question is for this Tide team heading in?
Yeah, we heard coming in, Nick Saban liked the yummy rat poison from the SEC championship game. Well, he's getting the old school rat poison because they're obviously huge favorites. But I think what we saw in that SEC championship game is the offensive line play its best game and really its only good game of the year. So is that the trend or was that an aberration? And talking to some folks around Georgia over the last month, they felt like they got too creative and that was why that pressure didn't get home. But the truth of the matter is for Alabama, it didn't matter because generally speaking, they were a train wreck. Worst in the SEC in sacks allowed. Bryce Young was completely clean against Georgia. So that's the big deal. If they can protect Bryce Young and if they can open these holes for Brian Robinson Jr. and the rest of these running backs, then Alabama is a complete football team. But again, we saw them one time do that this year. The other time, specifically Auburn, LSU, Florida. The offensive line was a complete disaster. So that's the burning question. Who is the real Alabama offensive line?
A good point. So by now, everyone knows the Bearcats are the first team outside of the Power 5 conferences to reach the college football playoffs. Many don't consider them equipped for a game like this against a power team like Alabama. The line reflects that, 13.5-point underdogs. How might that motivate them, though, coming in?
Oh, there's no doubt it's going to motivate them. Luke Fickell said that they're not carrying the banner for the group of 5, but they know they are. These players know they are. So, yeah, they're motivated by this. And look, you go back to that Peach Bowl last year. They played Georgia extremely tough, and all of those contributors from that team are back. It's not just Desmond Ridder. It is Sauce Gardner. It is Kobe Bryant. It is that offensive line and defensive line. So I think when they look at how they've developed from last January to now, they understand, they think anyway that they can be on the field with this Alabama Crimson Tide football team. So they have the confidence, and I think that's a credit to Luke Fickell. He has created, I think, the best developmental football program in college football, because you have a team like this that is not a one-hit wonder. These players have been there, done that to a certain point, and the chips fell in their direction this year. Now, here they are. They're going to be playing AT&T Stadium behind me on Friday afternoon. So they're confident. There's no doubt about it. They feel like they belong, and they do belong based on the way the season worked itself out.
All right, something to keep in mind. Alabama's defense has allowed over 2,900 pass yards, 46th out of 64 Power 5 schools, meaning there will be opportunities for Ridder. So, Barrett, what is the burning question for Cincinnati?
Well, it's eye discipline for that secondary. Jalen Armour-Davis might not be there. Josh Jobe has had his issues. We all know that. But Desmond Ridder, to me, is the kind of quarterback that, generally speaking, does give a Nick Saban defense some issues, because we know what he's able to do through the air. His accolades speak for themselves. But the guy is a weapon on the ground, not just as a scrambler, but as a willing runner and a game breaker at specific times. So when you look at what Cincinnati is capable to do offensively, they can get you with the run, they can get you with the option, they can get you deep downfield, and it all goes on Desmond Ridder. The guy has evolved into a true superstar, and yeah, he's going against an Alabama defense that, when you throw in a multidimensional rushing attack led by a running quarterback and you crank up the tempo, which is something that Cincinnati likes to do, then you can wear that Alabama defense out. You can prevent that depth from being a huge issue, because the dudes have to play on the same field all the time. You can't substitute. Nick Saban hates that, but Cincinnati can execute that in a way that a lot of other Alabama opponents this year haven't been able to do.
All right, thanks to Barrett Sallee. Looking ahead at the first college football playoff, it's the Cotton Bowl offering Alabama and Cincinnati. These two teams, of course, have something in common as well. How about the best records in FBS since the start of the 2020 season? Alabama at 25-1. Bearcats right back at them at 22-1. And keep in mind, they lost to Georgia in the Peach Bowl last season by 3 after leading by 11 in the fourth quarter, taking on a big power from the SEC. Georgia, by the way, is among those teams that have been among the best since the start of the 2020 season.